Hello there, welcome. I have a double page scrapbook layout for you, and I know my title said, a layout great for scraps, and here I've got a brand new paper pack. But trust me, this will be great for those itty bitty scraps in your craft room that you need to use up and you've been hanging on to. So I've got some hexagon shapes. Now these particular hexagons are part of the Meant to Be dies, and they're nesting hexagons, but they're unique because they cut the inner portion and they cut a frame. So they're quite cool. And I was inspired to, use the hexagon shape because of the, element in the photo. So this is really cool. And if you've been here, you might recognize it. But if you look at this hexagon shape in the stone, it is the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, and I've never seen anything like it in nature before. It's truly unique, and it was very beautiful there. We got there nice and early, so we didn't have too many people around. So this is all of us in my travel party with our feet on a hexagon, just framing in this one. So I thought that was a really cool shot. And then I've got some nice detail shots, and we don't love snails in the garden, but look at him. Look at him just cruising along the moss there with his little stripy shell. He's so cool. So we had to include the little magical Ireland snails there. And you can walk. So we walked down on the hexagons right on the water. And then they had this trail going out to the point there. So there's my husband. My youngest son Clayton went with us on this trip. And then you can really see those columns there. Really fascinating. And a view of the coastline there. My son out on the point with all of those hexagon shapes. And then we, of course, my friend Bonnie and I, we had to get the little walkie, things that you can listen to that had this cool Gaelic voice, and you can, hear the historical points of interest along the hike. So I actually have more photos, and I'm probably going to be adding in a Pocket Plus page just because there were too many photos to narrow it down. And I do try to get, one event on one layout if possible. So if you look at these photos, we've got lots of blues and grays, cloudy sky. So this is the Take to the Sky collection, and I actually bought this with my Scotland and Ireland trip in mind. And I am wanting to use the greens, and then like this one here, actually I've got a half piece here. So this isn't quite a brand new paper pack. And then if you look at this rust color paper, I think this is copper clay. It goes beautifully with the color of the soil. Look at that. So I think that these three papers are going to, I might bring in some more. I've got some other ideas, but let's go ahead and bring in the verse mats and get started. And these will be my focus to begin with. I typically start my layouts on a sheet of white cardstock, but we're going to switch it up, and I have some Mink from my stash. Now there is gray in this collection. You can see that here. And the Stampin' Up color of gray you would want to use if you don't have Mink would be Smoky Slate. So what I'm thinking, I'm actually using a sketch design I created for a challenge in our creative design team membership back in February. We had a masculine focus, and I used hexagons because they're a great shape for masculine layouts. So I kind of know where I'm going with this, but I'll bring in the sketch in the end, and you'll see I did make a lot of changes as far as my photos go. So what I'm thinking, these are 3x4s. This is just shy of a 4x6. So I'm thinking of, the original sketch has two 4x6 horizontal, and then like this. Actually, this one was a square. So what I could do is something like this. So these are all my favorite photos, and then of course I love these photos too, and there's a few more printing, but I might add some flip-flops in, or possibly we have a Pocket Plus page that is, unfortunately no longer available, but I have them, so I might put them to good use. I actually want this one here. These two are my favorite photos, so we want those there. I want to break up the green. And let's see, I think I'm going to start with, I want this one here. So let's start with those, and we'll kind of let it develop. Again, I might do something like this and have that column, maybe bump this down, and then have this be a photo block going across. We will see, but let's kind of start with the sketch as our jumping off point. What makes this great for scraps is when you use a shape like this, you really only need a small tiny bit of paper so you can put those scraps to good use. Again, I'm using a brand new paper pack, but you know, hexagons or circles, you know, diamond squares, any type of shape that you can kind of create a pattern going across the layout is perfect for scraps or 6x6 papers as well. So in my layout design, we've got a series of hexagons that kind of carry your eye across, and then there is a strip of paper going across to anchor everything. So I really love this map paper, and it's fantastic. We actually have, well, the Giant's Causeway is in Ireland, so we've got Ireland on the map, so that might be kind of fun to incorporate that piece in. So I love the green, really brings out the green. And then we've got the blues, and then again this plaid here. So I want 3 colors of hexagons. So I don't know if I want to put this in the hexagons also, or just have this going across as my, you know, strip, and then bringing the same color green in from a different paper. I have 2 more paper collections that could go along with this beautifully. So this is the Timeless Plaid. You can see it's a 6x6. And these little holders, I get asked about these a lot. They are the Caydo brand. I get them from Amazon. They're nice little envelopes, sturdy envelopes, perfect for 6x6 papers. So I'll leave that listed in the description box below. But again, Timeless Plaid, and you know, what's more perfect for Ireland and Scotland than plaid, right? So you can see there's a lot of greens and blues and those copper clay colors in here. I don't necessarily want multiple, you know, different plaids, so I don't know if I want to do that, but this one would bring in that green nicely, and lots of options in here. And then I also have this one, which is a beautiful gallery collection, and in particular this paper right here. It has this ocean scene on it with these boats, and I think that would look really beautiful with this. So the sky's very similar. We have, you know, everybody wishes for blue skies, but I actually quite like the storm clouds in the background. We just got a little sprinkling of rain, so the cloud cover was actually quite nice and very beautiful. And then this ties in with that color as well. So I think I want to somehow incorporate that one. So what I'm going to do is just start cutting some hexagons from these, and we'll let it develop. I have hexagons from the beautiful gallery scenery paper with the clouds and the ocean, and then the topography map from Take to the Sky, and then that copper clay plaid also from Take to the Sky. I used early espresso to ink up all of the edges of these, and then, you know, I'm hesitant to cut into this until I absolutely know that I want to use this. So on my sketch I created, there's a 2x12 inch strip that goes across the bottom. So I'm going to lay that there for now and make sure that's the one I want to use before cutting into it for strips or hexagons. So following my sketch, I know where the placement of my little hexagons is going to go. So I'm going to dry fit them and just make sure everything looks good before I adhere everything down. So we can definitely move these around as we go. This is a little bit like putting together a puzzle. I just want to lay the pieces down in the areas they're going to go, and then I can move around the colors and patterns to make sure it's pleasing to the eye. One more thing you want to be mindful of is if you have a pattern with a direction, you want to make sure they're all going in the same direction. You'll notice that copper clay plaid in the lower right hand corner is on an angle, so I will want to switch that to match the others. I want to bring this in just to get a little bit better idea of what that looks like, and I want green in the top. I think we need some green up in the hexagons, but I don't know. I'm going to look for some other green papers in my collection to see what else I have to work with. I found this one here. This is from the Season of Elegance paper, which was a Christmas collection that I pretty much used for everything but Christmas projects. So this has both Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. And look at that with the green in the photos. And it reminds me of the moss and algae growing on some of the rocks, the way you have the striations. So I think this might be really, really beautiful. I am going to cut some hexagons from this one. I went ahead and cut 4 hexagon shapes, so now we can just work these into the pattern. And I'm absolutely loving how they have, this particular paper has both the light and dark greenery shades because it really plays so well into the photo. You can see those different shades of green in the moss that the snail's on, and then in the landscape photo of the shoreline there. I think we need a little of that copper clay color in this lower left corner. And then let me scoot this map paper out. I want to try the same paper from the Season of Elegance here and see how that looks. And yeah, I think I like that. Rather than cut this one with the striations, I decided to go with this pattern for a little bit of variety. It's from the same paper collection and just has a different pattern on there. So again, these are 2 inches by 12 inches, and these are going to run across the bottom of my layout, just kind of anchoring everything together. And again, I'm just roughly placing these hexagons. I want to take a look at the whole thing together, and then we can move those colors around to be better balanced. And I need to cut a few more hexagons, but what I want to do is, see, I don't like how this one, the green is on the green, so I know I want to move that. But some of these I'll be able to use the pieces to fill in spaces. So I don't want to go crazy cutting a whole bunch of them when I can wait and kind of utilize what I've got to make the most of those scraps. On my sketch, I have a large photo mat behind this main focal photo, and I'm thinking I want to go with Night of Navy. It's a nice bold color and really makes the photo stand out. And then I had 2 photo mats behind my 4x6s, but maybe we'll mat all of those as one. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these down. Typically, I make my photo mats 1/4 of an inch bigger, so you have an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, but sometimes I'll do it extra wide. This is actually a 1/2 inch border around that photo on the left, and it's nice to really draw attention to a feature photo, or if you have a busy background, a wider photo mat can, help that to stand out as well. I remember when we were planning our trip to Ireland, there was so much to do, and we really truly could have used a whole nother week, but we weren't sure if we wanted to go that far north where the Giant's Causeway was. And I'm so glad that we did make that whole loop around and make it all the way up to this northern part of Ireland, because it, like I said, it was really unique and just really a cool experience. And we, stayed the night in Belfast and had some other fun adventures while we were there. Okay, I'm liking those hexagon placements. I think this is a nice balance. We have the blue kind of going all the way across, and then the same for this copper clay color. And then we're just keeping the green up top to balance out the green on the bottom. And then again, I'll just cut off some of the hidden pieces and then fill them in over here. Like the other side of this one will work perfectly here. And yeah, I think that's going to look good. My title is going to go here, so I have this large open space. Now on my sketch, I use this for the journaling, but I have an idea. I've got this stamp set that, again, I bought right away a year ago when I first joined, and I love it. And I am thinking, this is a good size stamp set. I am thinking this might look really cool as some subtle background interest right here. So I say we go for it before we adhere everything down, because if I don't like it, I can swap out for another piece of cardstock. I have a large acrylic block. We'll pick up the stamp. Let me scoot this out of the way. And I do find it easier to lay your stamp down. Take your ink pad. I've got Smoky Slate, and then tap your ink pad to the stamp rather than stamping your stamp in the ink pad. I just think it works better when it's a larger image. So we'll hold it over kind of where we want it, and then I'll just scoot these out of the way, trying to get that straight without putting my head in your way. And then you don't want to push down too hard because there is a foam pad, but that looks fantastic. This stamp has distressing and fading built into it, which I think really adds to the design. So you want that distressed look. And that will lighten a bit, of course, as it dries and be a little bit more subtle on the background, but I absolutely love it. I think that looks so cool. I'll take a minute off camera to get everything situated so you don't have to watch me fiddling with the pieces. I have everything adhered down except for this photo because I'm going to tuck some tags behind there. Let me bring in this sketch so you can see what I created. This again was a challenge in our creative design team membership back in February. We've got the title here and just a little bit of embellishing. When you have a layout like this with all of this, all of the different pattern papers and the hexagon shapes, they almost act like embellishments themselves. So you can see I have the journaling on a tag here, but I am bringing in my journaling in a different way. So to add a little interest to this space, I have a couple of the tags that are from the cut apart sheet. So you get two of these. This is the one side, and then you have the opposite side. So you can cut these tags out, which is what I've done to add just a little bit of fun embellishing. So we could possibly just tuck these back here like that, and that kind of frames in that photo nicely, adds a little bit of color to that space. And then for my title, I created this on my Cricut using the print and cut feature. So the Giants is in the copper clay color, and then Causeway is in Night of Navy, and then it's just all one piece. And I of course measured this so I could customize it to fit this space perfectly. And I do have a tutorial on print and cut, and I'll leave that listed in the description box below. Now this font here is from DaFont.com. It is called Celtic Garamond II. I wanted a Celtic font. So it's a free font, and I'll show you how you can easily add that to your system fonts on your computer as well. Here we are on DaFont.com, and you can see you can search under like a theme, fancy, foreign, techno, gothic, basic, script, or there's a search bar. Now I know I want a Celtic font, so we'll just type in the word Celtic or Celtic, however you want to say it, and click search, and then it pulls up anything that fits into that category. And some of these you can download for free. Some of the artists do want a donation, or you can just automatically donate, which is always nice. But great fonts. You can see a little example of what they look like. Let's go ahead and do this one here. We're just going over to the right hand side. This is called Celtic or Celtic Hand. We're going to hit download. It drops into my download folder. So let's go ahead and open that. We can double click on it, and it gives us a font preview. You can see the entire font and the numbers there. So we decide, yes, we like that. So we can just click install. It is literally that easy. So that is going to drop into my system fonts. And then when I'm in Cricut Design Space and I'm looking for that font, I would search under system rather than the Cricut fonts. And if you can't find it, sometimes it's missing when you're searching for the under system, and you may need to restart your computer, and then it always shows up for me. So yeah, DaFont.com, it's a great source of fabulous fonts, and you can really customize what you're looking for. For my little embellishment I'm going to create right here, I wanted to use this stamp that says Today Marks an Adventure. This is from the Tags to Go set, which is a travel theme set. And let's see, it's right here. So I'm going to stamp that with Night of Navy onto Mink cardstock because that's what I have on the background. So I've gotten in the habit of always training myself to search through my little junk drawer, and I happen to have a mink colored circle. I think that's mink, close enough anyway. And I'm going to actually use a die cut to shrink it down and make it fit the sentiment a little bit better. But I might as well go ahead and use up this little scrap. So again, Night of Navy, we'll ink that up in the center, and you can see how it's kind of lost. It's small on that giant circle. So I'm going to use one of my, reach it here, Spotlight on Nature dies, and maybe this one will work here. Oh yeah, that's going to be perfect. So I'll go ahead and get that die cut. It always looks so much nicer when you have that decorative edging. And then on my sketch, I had some arrows over here and then over here pointing in. So in my stash, I had these black acrylic arrows. Unfortunately, I've used most of them. I don't really want this style. I was hoping more for this one, and I only have one. So I'm going to need to look through my stash a little bit more and see if I can find something else so I could repeat a similar arrow on this side. I couldn't find any arrows I liked in my stash, so I went ahead and cut these on my Cricut, and I think they're a bit big, but maybe they will work. And I'm going to stack them kind of staggered here like this. And then I wanted just a little embellishing over here, so I created this globe. I stamped it from an old stamp set called Adventure Awaits, and it says Explore the World. I stamped that in navy on gray cardstock, and that can sit right on the arrow. Just a little something something. I added my journaling and additional photos. I'll show you that in more detail in just a moment. This is what we call a Pocket Plus page. Now this is a close to my heart product, so it's no longer available. But if enough of us request them, you know, maybe Stampin' Up! Will add these to their catalogs. They brought aboard flip flaps, which we were all so excited, so maybe they'll bring these in as well. So anyway, these are all 4x6 slots, and you can put them back to back. So there we are, sitting out on a column with the ocean in the background. I added my journaling directly to the Mink cardstock. There's, just for a little reference there's my son Clayton and my friend's son, and you can see how these are just really, really cool stacks of basalt there. And then a similar photo with my friend and her husband. And then I love to decorate these. So even though it's a 4x6 spot, you can do a 3x4 photo and then use bits and pieces from whatever you have left over to create a little embellishment cluster on these. And then down here I made a photo collage. Now I did this in my Print to Size app. I do have a video showing how I add multiple photos and print them on a 4x6 canvas. You can also do this in Canva. So something, you know, you might want to play around with. It's really fun to add these photos. In Print to Size, you can make them any size you want. So I just kind of made them fit the canvas here, but it's just us playing around on the rocks. Another nice view on the hike along the trail and a close-up of the flowers. I love adding close-up shots like the snail with these, you know, landscape shots, mixing things in. I think it makes for a very interesting layout. So this will sit in my page, or in the album, just like this. You can see it has the holes, so it'll go with the page protectors and be a little interactive element, and just is a great way to add more photos. Now the way this layout is designed, flip flaps are available. You could add a whole bunch of photos. These are all 3x4 flip flaps, or you could use 4x6 flip flaps and add a ton of pictures with what is available right now. So 3x4, again, 3x4s, 4x6, you could add a variety of photos that way. Let me hold this up so you can appreciate the details. I added a few little dots to finish off my tags, but I absolutely love the stamping of the map. I feel like that adds so much to this layout design. And yeah, those hexagons, a little bit of paper went a long way, right? So all of those videos I referenced for creating the title or creating a collage on your photos will be in the description box below, along with all of the supplies I've used on today's layout. And if you're looking for more videos featuring creative ways to utilize those itty bitty bits of scrap paper, you definitely want to check out this video right here.